Hey guys, Eric and Jon from Nerdy Geek Talk, the source for all your nerdy geeky needs, here with episode 15 of Holocron Herald. And yes, that is correct. This is me, not Luke, who is sadly not here this week. He should be back next week though, so don't you cry, don't you worry. You still have me and Darth Forge, aka Jon. Jon, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So, yep, it's just the two of us. But we are breaking down the Clone Wars movie this week instead of two episodes of the Clone Wars series. So, yeah, right off the bat, I just want to say that this actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I had memories of it being, I thought in my mind that it was worse than it was. It actually was not bad. I'm not going to say it was great, especially like as a movie. As a movie, it was just okay, but honestly, it was not bad though. I liked it. What about you? Was it better or worse than you remembered?
It was definitely better than what I remembered, but there were certain parts that I was just like, I really don't care about this, and I'm going to tune my brain out of it for a little bit.
I don't know how many parts I was like, I don't care about, but there were certain parts where I didn't necessarily buy it, or like it was just a little bit of a, like it had small problems. There wasn't a lot that I felt pretty interested throughout most of it still. Uh,
Yeah,
But yeah, it was actually, I would say I actually liked it a decent amount more than I thought I would. I would say that I came out of it saying that, yeah, I could watch that again. Am I going to watch it again anytime soon? No, but if someone wanted to watch it with me, I actually would. No problem. Um, but let's break this down. So, we both took notes, so we can just go through our notes. I'm guessing you wrote yours through chronological order as the episode went on, right?
for the most part,
All
yes.
right, so let's just start towards the beginning. First off, I just want to say, why didn't Jabba the Hutt hire Cad Bane?
I'm not entirely sure.
This would have
Probably
been a
because
lot
Cad
less
Bane wasn't
complicated.
in, because probably because Cad Bane wasn't really involved this early on chronologically.
So the real answer to that question is, Cad Bane didn't exist. Now he exists in the universe at that point, but real world, Cad
Hmm.
Bane didn't exist until later in the Clone Wars. And man, is Cad Bane great! He has an
Hmm.
amazing introduction. He is one of the greatest characters to come out of the Clone Wars, and there's a lot that I love, but he is
Hmm.
definitely one of, if not the greatest, Clone Wars original character. Um, but yes, that's in the beginning whenever he was talking about how he hired the bounty hunters, and then the bounty hunters' heads get delivered back to him because his son's gone and everything. I thought, if he would have just hired Cad Bane, he would have just like kicked both sides' butts, and this would have been over a lot faster. Like Cad Bane would have gotten
Well,
it done in 15 minutes.
my question is, if you hired like bounty hunters to find your kidnapped son, why wouldn't you just hire them to get the kidnapped son after they found him as well? If you have
Oh no
bounty
no no!
hunters
They
that
tried to.
already,
They tried to. Remember, they died, all of them.
I thought they were just hired. Yeah, but I thought they were just hired to find the son, and
I
they
don't think so. I
because
think
that's
the the scout troopers, they saw the bounty hunters get to that place. I'm pretty sure the bounty hunters didn't just
mm,
leave. I'm pretty sure that they went in and they tried to get the son back, and none of them left with their bodies. So you can see how well that went. But yeah, so I just want to point out that the Clone Wars movie would not have happened had Cad Bane been involved. It probably would have been a lot less complicated, but albeit
mm,
whatever. Also, interesting thing that I noted is that Obi-Wan calls uh, Grievous in the beginning. He says the droid Grievous in the beginning, which I just thought was interesting. I know it's a thing in the Star Wars universe that people sometimes confuse Grievous for a droid, but I find it very interesting that Obi-Wan called him a droid, not a cyborg, because there's a huge difference there if you don't understand that. But yeah, he calls him a droid in the beginning. He says the droid Grievous, who is not in this movie, by the way. I mean, he shows up pretty soon in the series. It's not long for him.
yeah. I don't know if Obi-Wan had any uh, situation where he was in contact with with Grievous. At this point,
Hmm.
I don't think he had ever encountered him yet.
Yeah,
At this point,
I
in
think it shows
Marvel.
that this kind of shows the progression in terms of yeah, this is the beginning of the Clone Wars and it's going to go longer, and the fact that he progresses because he doesn't even realize, at least at this point, he's calling him a droid. The way he defeats him is because of the fact that he's not a droid, you know,
Yeah,
in Revenge of the Sith. So there's that. Also, we should recap the movie real quick. So just basic overview. Jabba the Hutt's son gets kidnapped. Rada, his punky muffin. That's what he calls him. Not even making that up. Uh, his Jabba the Hutt's son gets stolen, kidnapped. Not stolen. He's not an object, quite. But he gets kidnapped by the Separatists, but no one knows this. So Jabba the Hutt sends bounty hunters. Bounty hunters die. He then tells the Jedi, like, "Hey, if you want, if you want to use passage through my systems, then you better go find my son." And so the Republic's like, "Oh my goodness, we got to find his son because this will turn the tide in the war." Fun fact: I don't think, is ever brought up in the Clone Wars series again. There's a character whose story arc later does tie back to this, but only one. In all honesty, I think the only impact this movie has on the series going forward is on one character, and that is Zyro. But otherwise, you could literally not watch this, and I don't think anything changes
Zero.
throughout the series. Zero, Zyro. I don't. Is it Zero? Did they call him Zero the Hutt?
I'm
I'm
pretty
not
sure
sure.
it's Zero the Hutt.
I
I'm
could have
pretty
swore they
sure.
said Zyro. I don't know. I believe
Yeah,
you.
because
But
this is what gets him into prison.
yeah, exactly. He's in prison in the series later. This is what gets him in prison. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, basically, it's the Sith are the Separatists are the ones who kidnap Rada, but they're playing Jabba, saying, actually, look, we have fake footage from whenever Anakin and Ahsoka find him on the planet that the Separatists have. They force him into a backpack to bring him back to Jabba, but the Separatists fake footage to make it look like, oh my goodness, the Jedi are the one that kidnapped him, and show it to Jabba. Jabba gets mad, thinks that it's a Jedi plot. Jedi come back because they escape Ventress, who kind of sucks in this. She sucks at her job. I don't think she ever pulls off her mission once. She has like 3 opportunities. I don't think she a single time gets things done. Um, but basically, they come back. Anakin and Ahsoka. Oh yeah, Ahsoka meets Anakin in this too. But they bring Rada back, and they end up saving the day and everything. Also, there's a bit with Padme and Zero the Hutt, but that's not super important. All you need to know is that this is all about finding Jabba's son, which they do end up doing. But anyways, getting back to notes. Oh, another thing I noticed from literally the opening battle is that, man, the Clone Wars is awesome because it had large scale battles.
Oh yeah.
Just
I
overall,
really enjoyed the
that's
battles
something
in
I
the.
really miss in Rebels. Rebels has good
Mhm.
fights. Don't get me wrong; they have some great fights in that show, but there are never
But they're small
armies.
scale.
Yeah, exactly. They're all small scale, which it makes sense for the show. In all honesty, they don't. They literally don't have an army, so like that's not
Yeah.
really something where it's like, oh, like if it was in the Clone Wars and they were only doing small scale battles, that wouldn't make sense. Which is why they have tons of large scale battles. But in Rebels, they don't have the manpower to have large scale battles. But I do miss it because, man, it looks awesome. And there's a lot of death. Like,
Oh yeah.
you
They straight up
constantly,
showed death.
yeah, you see
Yeah.
clone troopers dying non-stop in this. Now, in all fairness, you don't see a lot of battle droids dying, and the clones, you don't see their faces, at least in this movie, when they die. You see clones' faces when they die later. Like, they are a lot more upfront about death in this series than Rebels. But, yeah, just right off the bat, I
Mhm.
noticed, man, I
I
love
do
large
miss
scale
that in
batteries
Rebel.
and all the death. So, yeah.
The my first two things that I noted was the there's like whispers of a battle during the Lucasfilm logo, and normally it's pretty silent whenever the Lucasfilm logo shows up. And I thought it was like a pretty good way to introduce us to this movie, um, even before it started. And then in the intro, uh, they show Kit Fisto and Plo Koon fighting side by side, and they aren't in the movie at all. They just
Yep.
They're just there in the
Int
intro
that's
randomly.
I don't know. Does that ever happen in the show? That was always in the intro. I don't remember if that actually happens in an episode. That
I
specific shot. I don't think it
don't
does.
think so.
Yeah.
If it does, then it eludes my memory.
Yeah,
But
exactly. So I always thought that was interesting. I even noticed that as a kid, that shot was in the intro, but for most episodes, well, not most episodes, but in a lot of the recaps, when they would say war, between the separatists, the everything, it's in there several times. They use that. I don't think it ever happens in an episode, which is interesting because both those characters do get like spotlight episodes, but whatever. Also, what
maybe it was for a planned storyline that they never did.
possibly, although we know about most of the planned storylines that never happened for the Clone Wars, but it's not impossible. But
Hmm.
um, also, what did you think of the opening music? Because it is different.
I thought it was all right.
I like it only because it's nostalgic for me because of watching the show so much. So it's
Hmm.
the show's music, so I like it. I do think it's interesting that it's a pretty different take on the opening. It still has elements of it, but it's pretty different. What did you think
Yeah.
overall the music throughout the movie?
Um, it was really good. I specifically during battles, the music was used pretty well, and there were a few times that I actually thought, "Oh, this the music is pretty nice."
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of mandolin at a certain point whenever they were on tests.
The the particularly the one that jumped out to me a lot was Ahsoka's theme, and the reason why is because Ahsoka's theme is pretty heavily used in I don't want to say what happens in it. The arc
At the
the
end.
arc where the arc at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the end of the
uh,
series.
at the end of the series, they used that theme pretty heavily throughout that story arc, and so it kind of like reminded me of that and made me really want to watch that instead of this. But it was because that, in my opinion, is the best story arc. That's the most emotionally impacting one, the one that you really see how bad the Jedi have gotten. Um, and so that's kind of why I like that one. But
I love that
it,
arc.
the,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's emotional for me too. I actually think there's other arcs that hit me more emotionally than that one, but that one's certainly up
mhm,
there. That's probably
yeah,
the biggest one for most people though, as it should be. But
yeah. It's one of the big ones. Also, did you notice that they had Mace Windu a few times in the beginning, and Samuel L. Jackson was actually voicing Mace Windu?
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the guy that normally does it in the show, his name is Terrence C. Carson, and whenever I heard Mace Windu talk, I was like, sounds an awful like the actual actor. So I looked it up, and sure enough, Samuel L. Jackson was playing the voice of Mace Windu in this movie, which I thought was interesting. They
That
don't
is,
use him very much, which
yeah.
is why it surprised me.
Yeah, that is interesting that they have a different actor for this. I guess they just hadn't settled on one for the show. I don't know.
And plus, if you get a big actor like Samuel L. Jackson to voice like a small TV movie like this, you don't use him for like 5 minutes.
That might have been why
You
they
give
were
him a
able
bigger
to
role.
use him though.
Yeah, but
Is that it
still,
wasn't much. But I don't know. I don't get me wrong. I of all people would not complain if they gave Mace Windu a larger role in anything. I
mhm.
love Mace Windu. He's my favorite Jedi. But
Oh yeah,
I'm,
he's pretty
in
awesome.
all honesty, that is probably the reason they were able to get Samuel L. Jackson to do it is because he had like 4 lines.
Yeah.
So,
But
um,
yeah, immediately whenever he started talking, I noticed that his voice was different. I was like, huh.
yeah. Um, Also, my my first note I have for the battle on Christophsis. How did the droid army not know there were cannons? They saw them firing for at least the first
I
half of the battle, and then they're like, "Oh,
yeah.
why are we stopped? There's cannons. Oh man, let's turn around." Like, you knew. Like they definitely knew going into it. Like, hey, look,
Mhm.
there's cannons firing at us. Like, oh, why didn't they just use the shield the first time? But whatever. Um,
One thing I did notice is the separatists really didn't have um, they didn't really have much regard for how much the casualty rate of their droids. Um, how much money does, because it does cost money for them to make the droids, how much money do they have? Because they're just using the battle droids as pretty much a really expendable army. They don't have them go into cover at all. They just try to they try to overwhelm their enemy with the amount of battle droids they have,
that's
and because
exactly
of that,
that's on purpose. They're insanely cheap in canon. Like that is the
okay,
whole idea of the droid army. Like that, you're right. You're absolutely right. But that is exactly their point. They can afford to have like 20 or so per clone. I forget what the exact. There is a cost ratio, but it's a lot per clone. Like it's more than an
okay,
average clone can take out. So that's exactly what their intention is just to overwhelm them. It is by no means do they ever plan on trying to play it smarter than the clones. Except later on in the series, we do encounter other types of droids. So
yeah,
I love some of the alternate types of droids we see. I don't care for battle
mhm,
droids or really super battle droids that much, or really droidicas, the three main droids there are. I don't hate them, but I don't really love them that much. But some of the
but the
alternate
more
droids,
specialized droids
yeah,
are a lot
I
more cool.
love some of the specialized droids.
Mm,
Especially, I love the droid commandos are probably my favorite droids, but especially in the episode where I believe it's Cad Bane's introduced when they break out Zero, is there's
mm,
customized like rogue, and by rogue I mean like they're being used by Cad Bane, battle droid commandos that have like purple striped paint and stuff. But anyways,
yeah.
yes, that you noticed correctly. That is very much their tactic. It might not seem wise, but when you look at how much money they have and how cheap the battle droids are, they're way cheaper than clones. My other question is, we know that obviously the whole point in Obi-Wan getting the Padawan and it turning out to be Anakin's Padawan Ahsoka, like he did that on purpose. But my question is, why didn't Obi-Wan ever get another Padawan?
Yeah, after that, he pretty much, I noticed that too. After that, he pretty much just forgot about it. He no longer cared and just like, you know what? I was gonna get this girl, but I don't care anymore.
See, I don't
No,
think
no
he
more
ever
Padawans for
intended to
me.
get Ahsoka. I'm pretty sure that he and Yoda really were trying to get that to be Anakin's, because Anakin's like, I think you did that on purpose. I'm pretty sure he did too. But in all honesty, why didn't Obi-Wan have another Padawan later? Like, that's pretty uncommon for a Jedi to only have one. Like, they typically have multiple. I mean, it's possible that they
Mm,
have only one. And, like, Anakin only had one, but in all fairness, Anakin wasn't done by the time he ended. Like,
yeah,
he didn't just die. Like, it wasn't a natural end for that. Um, on the other hand, Obi-Wan, yeah, he never trains another one, which is really odd. You think that he would. So that just made me
mm,
think of that. That's not really a thing with this movie. It's just that this reminded me of it. So I just thought that was interesting. Also, this is the first time we ever get to hear the nickname Sky Guy and Snips.
yeah. I wrote that down too, and I hated it every time they used it. They also Ahsoka did use a nickname for the little hut child as
Stinky.
Stinky,
Yeah.
and that annoyed me to no end as well. Uh,
Ahsoka is an annoying character when she's introduced.
at
Yes,
first, yeah,
I say that's why I said when she's introduced. Her character progression is what makes her so great. But yes, I don't. I
yes,
find her annoying. I don't hate the nickname Sky Guy and Snips. I didn't. I'm not fond of how much they use it in the movie, especially. But in the earlier parts. But yeah, I just don't love it. But I didn't hate it as much as some people do. I did think it was interesting that they bonded a lot quicker than honestly they should have. That's in all
yes,
honesty
they
for
did.
plot reasons. That's one of my only main gripes about the movie. In all honesty, as in terms of as a movie, that is a problem. Is that relationship that developed way too fast. They had one
Mhm.
little quick scenario together, and then it was like, yeah, we're totally great. We're best buds now. Which, don't get me wrong, their relationship pays off later. It very much pays off, especially later in the
Yes,
series, and it develops there. But it developed a little too quick in this, you know, movie. So yeah, it's that's
The
a
whole
bit of a
reason
bummer,
why
but
I have I have a question. Ahsoka came to Christophsis in a shuttle, and their whole point for staying there and finishing the battle is because they couldn't get ships down to pick up their troops and leave and stuff like that. How did she get in there if they couldn't leave? And if they couldn't leave, why didn't they just get in the shuttle that she just came in and leave?
um, they didn't want to leave. They wanted reinforcements. And the reason that reinforcements didn't come with Ahsoka was actually set up, where Yoda says you need to send the messenger, and Yularen says, "I'll send them with the next, shipment of reinforcements and supplies and stuff once that's ready." Because they were still loading it up, and Yoda goes, "No,
Mhm.
no, no, no! You need to send her now." And he's like, "All right, I'll send her in an unloaded thing with me. Like, I'll send her in an unloaded thing immediately." So that's why she gets down there faster than reinforcements do, and then reinforcements come later. So, uh, in
I
all
also have
honesty, that's a really long time to load the ships, though, for how long they're there. But
yeah.
it is set up at least.
I have another mention of something odd that not stormtrooper, a clone trooper does during the Battle of Christophsis. Um, there's there's another trooper that uses his blaster instead of shooting the droids, runs up to them with his blaster and uses it as a melee weapon instead of shooting them.
No, no, no! He punches
Um,
him with his hand.
no, this is a different trooper.
Oh, okay.
Um, when instead he could have just shot the droid instead
Wait,
of
does he shoot after that though?
hitting him
Because
with
it's
his own
possible he
gun.
was out of ammo. Just saying. Who
I
knows?
think he dies at
Oh.
some point, but I'm not sure. Also, this is the first time that the Sith Lord Palpatine appears in a hologram in the show.
Oh, is it really?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think that in pa- uh, the first two episodes that we did, I don't think he showed up. It was mostly just Count Dooku.
Hmm.
So this is the first chronological appearance
Of
of
Sidious.
him in the hologram of Sidious in a hologram. Uh, so it's your first hint of him overseeing all the different things.
Yeah. Which is interesting that he's not. I mean, I guess there's no reason he would have been involved in the two episodes we saw last time, so that makes sense.
Which really, technically, he is involved because Count Dooku is his puppet.
Yeah.
Um,
No, no,
but
no. He's definitely involved, but.
but they don't show his involvement in the first two. Um, so I thought it was interesting whenever I saw him. Also, they show off Ventress's saber staff in a lightsaber fight between the two.
Yeah, I actually have
Um,
that later in my notes. Is that Ventress has a good lightsaber design. In all honesty, that's probably one of the
yeah.
best ones in terms. It's not my favorite, but it's probably the best designed lightsaber I would say in Star Wars. Essentially, because it gives you the benefits of all of them except a crossguard, which in all honesty I'm a fan of the crossguard. But in terms of
Mhm.
like past lightsaber styles, it takes the best of all of them because it gives you any advantage that
Mm.
you want, really. So,
But I did notice that whenever she lost one of her lightsabers, she's not very well trained with one lightsaber. So like she was doing pretty poor in the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and her whenever she lost one of her lightsabers. Um, which then again she did run away like right after that happened, but
yeah.
still
In all fairness, that's on her, not the
that's
weapon.
just yeah, that's
Yeah,
her skill set.
yeah, exactly.
That wasn't saying anything against what you just saying.
Uh
That was just
huh. Um,
notice shortcomings.
Next thing I have in my notes is, man, camo scout troopers rock. Those are the ones that we mentioned whenever they saw the bounty hunters for Jabba arrive at the
Yes.
on the Teth area, and then they they end up dying, but those are the scout troopers that saw them. I don't know if we see specifically the camo scout troopers at all later in the Clone Wars, but man, I love that design. This is our
Yeah, I
second.
don't.
This is our second variation of trooper we've seen
I
in
don't
chronological order.
think we see them that much later in the series, but yeah, they are pretty cool. I do enjoy them.
I'm gonna keep track of how many variations, and that specifically it has to be armor variations, not just like a regular clone painted different, because
Yeah.
that's just platoon. So that's our second variation in chronological order so far that we've seen. Yeah, we haven't seen any others. Um, Also, another thing I have is why doesn't Rex ever get promoted from captain?
I don't know. Probably, I don't think there is a higher rank other than the uh, just in the ranks that they have. I don't think there is a higher one other than the whatever they're called. That
Arc trooper.
they're on the no, not the troopers. I mean, they have uh, the captains on the ship that just use normal
Admirals.
clothing.
Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Which is
admirals.
higher
I think the
ranking?
next level up.
Which is higher ranking?
Uh,
Captain or commander? I thought commander was higher ranking.
I think commander could be, but I don't know.
That's why I'm curious. Just because I know like there's Commander Cody and Captain Rex. So which is higher? I'm pretty certain that commander is higher.
Yeah,
Captain.
commander is higher as far as I know.
So my question is, why doesn't Rex ever get promoted to commander?
I don't know.
Oh, here's a thing that's specifically for Star Wars. Okay, you can keep saying something just while I read this real quick.
The it could be that Anakin doesn't have control of the rankings of his troopers. Could just be that he's in command of them, and that someone other than himself has to give them higher ranks, and so that could explain why they didn't get he didn't get promoted. Um, yeah, I really don't know why they wouldn't have promoted him because he is a pretty valuable trooper.
So I looked it up and basically rank is very complicated in Star Wars. Basically, it's constantly changing and like it depends on what branch of the military you're in. Uh, and it says at the end, basically, captain outranks commander, except when it doesn't, depending on who's writing it. So that's fair. But I just thought that was
Okay,
interesting that his rank never changes. Also, is Rex an ARC trooper?
I don't think so.
I don't know, because at that point, does that mean that Fives and Echo outrank him later? Is an ARC trooper higher? I would think. I don't know. We'll get to that when we get to the ARC troopers arc
Yeah,
later, because that is an entire arc. But that's just an
yep,
interesting thought in terms of like stuff happening with rank and things. It's weird, but
yep.
either way. Next on my notes is let's see, tea time with Kenobi.
That
Oh my
was pretty
God,
funny.
Lilsum is an idiot. That was funny. I actually enjoyed
Mhm.
that. Part of me was like, man, this is just ridiculous. But in all fairness, isn't that how he would really go about it if he was surrendering?
Pretty much, yeah. His tone was pretty sarcastic, even if he wasn't trying to be sarcastic. It was pretty funny. I kind of feel like that's how he would act
Yeah. So
if he was trying to stall a surrender.
Mhm. But I thought that was hilarious. Also, what did you think of the Ahsoka saving Anakin's life? I thought that was interesting because it's not the fact that she did it. It's just that she's like, "Oh, I saved your life." Meanwhile, she crushed 5 droids. It was like 4 or 5. Whenever she pushed that wall down, he was fighting like 10 to 12 before that. Especially when she
Mhm.
unleashed more on him. I'm pretty sure he had it under control.
Yeah,
But in
he
all fairness,
definitely had a.
that could be why later, whenever she's telling the story to the clones, and they're all like, "Man, is that true?" And he goes, most of it. Because, like, she did do that, but in all fairness, I don't think she saved his life. but it was still, a funny moment anyways.
It could also be showing the impulsiveness of Ahsoka. She
Oh,
hasn't grown enough to not be as impulsive, so could just be showing her youthfulness
hmm,
and not knowing when to do certain things. Because she is really young at this point.
yeah. Also, I thought it was interesting. There was a line that says, like, it's easy to accept the. I forget what the line is, but basically it says it's harder to let go of the apprentice, which I thought was very interesting and just that's very introspective when it comes to thinking about the whole arc with Ahsoka and everything, because that tears
Mhm.
them apart. Especially because it gets
Yeah, it
so much.
does.
It's worse than like letting go of an apprentice becoming a knight, because Obi-Wan let go of Anakin being his Padawan when he became a knight, but they still hang out all the time. They're still around, but that's not how painful it is for Anakin
Like,
and Ahsoka.
yeah,
And I
she
think
left.
that adds a layer because that happens right before Revenge of
Mm,
the Sith. That just adds so much. That's part of why I love the Clone Wars so much, is that it adds so much to the overall story. But
mhm.
that especially that adds so much later because that puts her in a dark place. That puts him in a really dark place. Like this series gets really dark and sad towards the end with several arcs. It gets just straight up depressing at certain points. Like it is a very emotional and dark show for kids. And I love the show, don't get me wrong, but it goes to some hard topics and themes that I just
Yes, it
wouldn't
does.
expect a show to. And we haven't gotten since.
Mhm.
And I love Rebels for what it is, and it's great. But in all honesty, I wouldn't expect Rebels to. I mean, but Clone Wars did, and it went for what it went for, and man, I loved it. And I just thought that was an interesting line that I don't even know if that was the setup. I mean, I am sure that they knew obviously Ahsoka cannot be Anakin's apprentice by the time of the Revenge of the Sith because that just doesn't work. But I wonder if they
Mhm.
had that specific idea on how her story would end. Part of me says no, just because it was so many years till then. They might have had the idea, but I don't think they of like her leaving the order. But I don't think they had it set in how it would go and how emotional it would be. I don't know though. I'm kind of curious. I know they like to plan ahead, but
Yeah,
that's
I'm
that's a
not
really
sure.
long time in terms of
Yes, it
I'm
did.
I'm kind of curious how long the Clone Wars aired because it had like 6 seasons, right? By the time that it
Hmm.
ended, so that's that's interesting. Um, but I really just like that line. Also, this is actually one of the things I hate from the movie. Just that I've hated since I was a kid. It is not a problem with the movie, but when Ventress mind tricks Rex, I hated that as a kid. Like I hated that so much. It bothers me because
Why?
just this is totally me. Again, this is not a flaw with the movie. Uh because like I idolize Rex. Like he is by far my hero.
Oh, okay.
And then just seeing that, like how he was able to be mind tricked, like that bothered me so much, and it still does watching it. I hate that. I hate it so much, and I just find it interesting that I still have that strong of a reaction. By far, I hate that moment more than anything else in this.
It's a pretty strong statement.
And again, I totally admit that is 100% me, 100% like just me, nostalgic for the character, just how I idolize them. But God, I hate that so much. It really bothers me, and I rarely have those type of moments where I'm like totally willing to show weakness and stuff in characters. I hated that so much, but it is what it is. Um, I have sorry I didn't want to die with a question mark, but I don't know what that's from. Also, did they fight on the Rancor in this movie, or is that later in the Clone Wars? Ventress and Anakin.
That's later in the Clone Wars.
Okay, because for some reason in my mind, I really thought that was in this movie, but then I was like, did I miss it or did that not happen? So,
Yeah, that doesn't happen yet.
hmm. Oh, I remember the sorry I didn't want to die. That's Oddball when he's panicking on the whenever they're coming in with fighters. Uh, Oddball panics when he's like
Oh,
about
yeah,
to
yeah.
when he's about to die, and then Obi-Wan's like, "Calm down, you're fine, I got you." And Oddball's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I was like, "What?" I don't know. I mean, you panicked and like you're a soldier, you're supposed to calm and everything, but it's like, "Sorry, I was scared I was gonna die." Like I don't know. There's this. I just thought that's interesting. Like, sorry, thought I was gonna die. I was a little, a little scared that I was about to die, but sorry.
Obi-Wan does say that it happens to everybody. So
Yeah, no, I didn't think that Obi-Wan like criticized him or anything. I just thought that was an interesting moment. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Just be calm. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. We all do it. Like, it's like, okay, that was just an interesting exchange. I'm not sure why that was in there, but another thing on since we're on to Teth pretty much now is there's actually a slight animation error. If you notice, they are calling Cody on Teth, and he's in a hangar of some sort, I think, but he answers, and he doesn't have his not it's not the visor. He keeps saying that. Well, it is sort of what's this called on the hat, like the front part of a hat. The I don't know, but either way, Cody's not his visor, but it's sort of like his shades, his little hat, whatever.
yeah,
Um, it's gone, and it's gone in whatchamacallit, but I'm a little concerned. So yeah, there's an animation error actually where Cody's, his visor disappears, not visor, but the little thing above it, and it disappears whenever they put a shot on him whenever he's trying to talk, and then it pans away the shot changes to something else, then the shot goes back, and it is actually of Cody again, and he has the little part, the extension on his helmet. So I just thought that was interesting to note that yes, there actually is an animation error in this, which I thought was interesting. Not a big deal. It was just it caught my eye that it was weird. Um, Next thing I have is just Ventress's sabers, which we already brought up. That yeah, I think they're not my favorite by any means. Like they're not the ones that I would want, but they're actually probably the best designed lightsabers in Star Wars in terms of having the benefits of all lightsabers except cross guards. Um, Next thing I have is whenever they're talking about Anakin being home. Fun fact: there are Tusken Raider noises whenever that is said. Whenever she says like, "Oh, you're coming home," and he goes, "Yeah," it must be so great to be home. And he goes, "Yeah, whatever." Like, there are Tusken Raider noises playing, which I just thought was it's interesting. I wouldn't have expected them to do that. I think it's good that they did, in all honesty, because that ties that together. That is a bad thing that he did, and while poorly executed in the dialogue afterwards, that is a really important thing that happened. Uh, you're muted. I can see you talking. You're muted. Fuck dialogue. Shay's gonna have to edit this too. But it's okay. It's not. It shouldn't be anything too hard. Nope. Just try hanging up and calling again or something. Or plug it in, plug it out, and plug it in. Okay. Shay, just keep editing. Sorry about this. Just have to make sure you get your work in, right?
how
Okay.
about now?
Yep, you're back.
All right.
So while poorly executed, I do think that the Tusken Raider bit is an important event in Anakin's life. So I think it is good that they put that noise in there. And I'm glad that he doesn't just outright say, "Yeah, I murdered a bunch of Tusken Raiders the last time we were back here." I thought it was great that he just didn't acknowledge it. Now, uh, the dialogue that comes after this, though, because I thought that was really handled well, in all honesty. Because, it's a bit of an awkward situation, because, yeah, it's an important thing that you can't just shrug off. You can't act like that didn't happen. But at the same time, the dialogue was so awkward after that scene that it makes it just weird to talk about. It's become kind of a joke sometimes. But it is something that is important in universe. So I thought that was actually handled very well with just the subtle noise, and it was like, I don't want to talk about it. The thing is, afterwards, then they talk about sand, which I don't know.
Before we get to the sand stuff,
Okay, because that's gonna be a bit.
yeah, um, I do have still what's that planet called where the castle's on?
Teth. That's the Teth system. I don't know what the planet's called.
Whenever they find the spice freighter for the first time and they go over there
The
and they
Twilight.
find the Yeah, the Twilight. Whenever they get over there, they find the caretaker droid. How did the caretaker droid get over there? Because that is a huge distance with a huge valley there. Do they have like tunneling
It
under the
could be
ground?
tunnels, or he could have taken one of those speeder things that Anakin kicked a droid off of, like the standing speeders.
That's true.
It could have been one of those. In all honesty, I think it's just more like they didn't think about it. But it is true that there are ways he could have gotten over there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that is a significant distance for that droid to have just gone like crazy. I'm guessing that yeah, there's probably tunnels underneath. So, who knows? Um,
Uh,
what
the
else we got?
next thing before we get to the sand stuff, Anakin got really attached to this freighter throughout the series. Like he
Yes.
uses it quite often, and I think that's because of his mechanical background, he likes to work on stuff. I think that's kind of why he got so attached to it is because he likes to work on things. He does say in this that he didn't get it tweaked out yet, so
Yeah, that's
I
his.
think
That
that's kind of
actually,
why he got so
that's been
attached.
stated in the Clone Wars in several dictionaries I've read and stuff. Is that the reason he's so attached to the Twilight is because it's like his passion project. Like he's
Mhm.
constantly working on it just because he loves mechanical stuff so much, and so that is
Yeah,
exactly why. Although he hates it, you could tell in this. He does not like it on
because
first impression, and they crashed the heck out of it. Like, geez, it gets smashed. Um,
mhm,
but yeah, I did. I didn't even think about that. I should have written that down. That yes, that is the first time we see the Twilight, and it's
mhm.
introduced in because we are going to see it a lot throughout the series. It is an important thing. I can't remember what happens to it. Don't say it. I don't know if you remember
I
what
don't I
happens
don't
to it.
remember what happens to it
I'm
either.
pretty sure something happens to it. Like I think it gets destroyed at a certain point or
From
whatnot.
what I remember, they just stopped showing it. I don't remember anything
I am
specifically happening
almost
to it.
certain that it gets destroyed at a certain point, but I don't remember. We will get
We'll
there
get
at some
to it when we
point.
get
It'll
there.
happen. I'm
Yep.
almost certain that we know what the fate of the Twilight is, though. But yeah, it is interesting. This is a recurring thing. Like this is something that's actually pretty important. I would say it's not a like serious plot
Mhm.
element, but it is almost a character in terms of because it shows up a lot. Uh, so it is its introduction, and it's funny because by the end of the movie, it doesn't seem like it's set up to be something that they'll be using a lot.
Yeah, it seems like they just ditched it
Yeah, like
at the
because
end
they
of the
crashed it. So I guess
movie.
he goes back, picks it up later and stuff. So that's interesting. But yeah, it is a not so great first impression. Of like, man, this thing's a piece of crap. Crash it. Guess what? We're gonna use the ship a lot later, but you just don't know it yet. Uh, but
The
yeah,
next thing, go ahead.
are you ready for sand, or do you have another thing?
I have another thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, the Doctor Droid hologram voice. I actually laughed at it. It was like, wow, that's really weird.
I like how you just, oh, here, just use this
Oh,
medicine.
hey, just use that. Go ahead, use
If it
that.
doesn't work, call a doctor.
Call a real doctor. Goodbye.
Yep, I thought that was funny, which I think it's intended to, but it was just okay, bit odd. Uh, but yeah, this is just weird. Next up, sand. We have
Yeah.
sand. So as I said,
My next thing in my notes says Anakin's worst fear: endless tracks of gritty, abrasive sand. Is my next note.
I find it so weird that they specifically changed the words. They don't use the
Mm.
words rough, coarse, or
Well,
say
Anakin
that it
didn't
gets
say
anything.
that line. That was
No,
Ahsoka.
no, it was Ahsoka, but I think I find it interesting that those words are specifically not used. I don't know. Maybe that those words were not as iconic back then. I don't know how long this came out after the movie. I feel like that's something that people have made for, I don't know, for a long time. I guess it may
Yeah,
have. It's possible that it might not have been as big of a joke when this aired, though. But
that's possible.
they just avoided it, which I thought was interesting. Which, in all honesty, if it was a joke, I kind of would have avoided it too. But I would not have gone this
Yeah.
route because they made it kind of awkward. Where it's like we are just using these words that are mean the same thing, but are not the same words to describe sand and why it sucks. So yes, a bit weird. I did find it interesting that Anakin frickin' weaponizes the sand in his fight
Yeah,
with Count
yeah.
Dooku. I love that.
In my notes, I say the battle of the Force Sand between Anakin and Count Dooku.
I put weaponize that sand in all caps with multiple exclamation points. But yeah, in his battle with Count Dooku, which is actually a pretty decent battle, I kind of like that.
Oh yeah,
Actually, it
I
was.
did that.
I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was quite as like grandiose as his first fight with Dooku, but it's not meant to be. This is just a
Mm,
distraction. But I did think that I felt that it was a logical progression in terms of we see them fight multiple times just throughout Star Wars history. They are enemies. In fact, he's probably Anakin's biggest rival. In not, I wouldn't say rival because they're not really equally ranked,
At
but in
least
terms
at this point in
fighting.
history, yes.
In terms of fighting, they fight each other more often than they really fight more other people throughout the series.
Yeah.
I kind of want to keep a tally on that just to make sure later, but I am almost certain that Anakin fights Dooku more than he fights other people, and I think Dooku fights Anakin more than he fights other people. But we'll see. It's possible I'm wrong, but either way, this is
Towards
just
the end,
another encounter that we'll see more of. But what were you gonna say?
towards the end of the fight, whenever they show the hologram of Ahsoka getting attacked by the battle droids, um, I half expected Anakin to get, because it's been a long time since I've seen this. I didn't even remember that they fought.
Uh,
I half expected Anakin to get angry and fight him more rather than run to Ahsoka. That's what I thought he was going to do.
I I get that, and I kind of expected the same thing in my mind, although I was pretty sure I knew how it went, although it's been a long time since I've seen this movie again. I've watched the series a lot, but the movie is something that I haven't watched a lot, uh, a ton of times. But I did find it interesting that, yeah, he made the mature choice, and he went and he went and saved Ahsoka, which I thought says a lot about their attachment by the end of this. Now, again, they formed their attachment too quick. I'm just going to say that
Yeah,
out front, like we already stated. They formed it too quick. But you can tell that there is a bond by the end. And by the end of this, I think there should have been a bond, and that he makes the responsible decision. He doesn't make the hot-headed decision like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," like you're ridiculous. No, he's being responsible. He's like a parent. He's actually taking care of his apprentice. That's good. And
yeah.
so I think that actually says a lot. That yes, it goes against what his character would normally do. That he goes and he does the responsible thing, and I think that's a good thing. It shows
I
character
think that
growth. So, oh, you froze.
it shows the change in
You
from
fr-
now on.
you froze. Just say that again.
I think it shows the change in his character. The Anakin in Episode 3 wouldn't do that. He would do the
You
hot-headed.
mean in
Uh,
episode 2? I mean,
I'm
he definitely
saying
would have
in
done it
terms
in
of
episode
him
2.
going down to the dark side. I'm talking
Okay.
that that kind of character progression.
In all honesty, I don't think that he would ever turn back and not go after Ahsoka, once he's with Ahsoka. Even like as he gets darker and stuff. I mean, obviously once he's Vader, but in terms of
Yeah,
even like Revenge of the Sith, I think he would have made the decision to save Ahsoka. But the thing is, that's another thing that adds later is that Ahsoka's gone, and that's one of his major things that kept him like you need to be responsible. All of that that's
mhm,
gone, and so that's a big emotional
yeah.
blow to him. But also in terms of his responsibilities, they change in Revenge of the Sith and such. So there is that. Uh, but I also think that yeah, this is a sign that he's growing, and then it's also a sign later that it's just going to take away. It's
Yeah.
going to make it even worse. Only other note I really have is that I put Zyro is special. I don't really love Zyro, but he comes back.
I don't.
He is important. I was gonna say that like his whole part seemed unnecessary in this movie. Um,
Yeah,
they used it at the end where Padme Amidala, she comes in and saves the day. But in all honesty, she didn't need to because
yeah.
they already pretty much cleared their name. They saved Rada. I mean, I guess it's possible Jabba still wouldn't have trusted them and everything. But in all honesty,
Well, technically, it was required because Jabba was ready to kill them before Padme got on the hologram and was like, "Hey, Zero's going to admit to this."
hmm
So I
I don't
guess
know.
it's kind of necessary, but that's the main
It was,
part that I tuned out of.
I was gonna
I
say,
was like, I don't really care about this. I'm just gonna tune my brain
yeah,
out of this.
but it is also necessary to set up Zero's character arc later, and more
Yeah.
importantly, Cad Bane is involved with that, and so that's why I care about it, not because it's Zyro. Although I think Zyros has an arc that intertwines with what's his name? He's a Jedi. Quinlan Voss. Doesn't he
Mhm.
go searching for Zyro at a certain point in the series too? I'm pretty sure that's what Quinlan Voss does when he shows up. Could be wrong.
I think so.
I think him and Obi-Wan are searching for Zyro, and I think that Cad Bane is also after them because Cad Bane uses a lightsaber in that episode. Fun
Mhm.
fact: Cad Bane is one of the coolest characters ever. But do you have any more notes?
I do. I have a few more notes. I have the quote by Anakin that says, "The desert is merciless, and it takes away everything from you."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought pretty funny. Um, I thought uh, Jabba's son likes to play in the sand, making him Anakin's worst enemy. Um, did you see like Hondo's pirates in Jabba's hut?
Yeah, those are some Weequay pirates.
Mhm.
Um, they're not just Hondos, so that's why they're there. But I do think that's a nice setup for the
Yeah.
species.
Uh,
Because I believe that's
Also,
the first time we've seen them in canon. I believe actually.
I think that is as well. Yes. Anakin says, "I'm here to negotiate," as he's holding his lightsaber towards Jabba
In all
in like a
fairness,
very threatening tone.
Jabba started the escalation, but yeah, Anakin.
Yes, but that was a funny way to go about
I
doing it.
know. In all fairness, that's something I actually meant to write down, but I didn't. Is why the heck did Anakin? Why was Anakin assigned to a mission where he's helping out Jabba the Hutt, and why did he take a mission where he's helping out Jabba the Hutt? He hates the Hutts. The Hutts are the main reason he was enslaved. Has to do with the
Yeah.
Hutts. I don't understand why the Jedi would assign him to that.
Possibly because as a Jedi, you aren't supposed to hold those emotional
I know,
attachments.
but I don't think they would want to test that with one of their most emotional Jedi. I don't know. Maybe you're right and they did it intentionally, but I feel like it was just because Anakin's the main character and this is the story we have, and so we're just going to make
Mhm.
Anakin do it. But in all honesty, Anakin should not have done that. They should not have made him do that, and I don't think that he really would have accepted that mission. I don't know. Maybe it's showing that he's trying to do the right thing, but like, I don't know. Because he gets the Empire later when he's Vader hides slavery from him. I mean,
Mhm.
he's aware in his mind, like he does know that there are slaves in the Empire, but they specifically make sure that there are never slaves of the Empire in front of Vader, because he will
Mhm.
flip. He's not okay with that because of him being a slave. So I think that, in all fairness, he's more likely to act on impulse then because he's a Sith Lord and everything. But it is still a huge part of his character is hating slavery. I feel like he would be way more opposed to helping Jabba, in which again he's not happy about it. He says I hate the Hutts,
Mhm.
but I still feel like he would have been more against it in the beginning. But I don't know. That's just a me thing. In all fairness, you could take that in terms of just he's trying to be a Jedi and do certain things. I don't know. That's up to you to decide. So, do you have
That's
anything?
all the notes I had.
That's all you have. So
Yeah.
overall, what would you give this out of 10? We didn't say this for the last two episodes, but actually, I think we did, didn't we? Maybe we
I
did. I don't remember. We might have. Either way, we're gonna start rating from now on. So out of 10, what would you give this movie? And not as a movie. I wouldn't say necessarily. How much did you enjoy it? I wouldn't say
just
compare
as
it
a Star Wars
as
as a
Star
Star
Wars
Wars
content.
effect.
I wouldn't say compare it to other movies. Although I would argue that it's better than Attack of the Clones, possibly The Phantom Menace. As a movie, not necessarily in terms of do I like it better, but I would argue that's a better movie, but again, that's a whole different discussion. Just so out of 10, how much did you enjoy this? How much did you
I'd
like
say
it?
7.5 out of 10.
I'd give it a 7.5. I would give it an 8 because I liked it, but there's just so
Mhm.
much more in the Clone Wars that I love so
Yeah.
much more.
The Clone
The
Wars
world
show sets the bar so much higher
exactly. I might
that
even give it a
you
7 only because there's so many things that I'm going to rank higher later in this as we go on in the series that
mm,
I need space to do so, in all honesty. because I can't just be like, oh, I like this thing, and it's a 8 or an 8.5, and then there's things that I think are almost perfect or superb, and just be like, oh yeah, it's only like 1 or 1.5 higher. Like, it's not as impactful. I'm gonna say actually a 7, which in all fairness, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I like it. It's just in comparison to what's coming, I need to leave room. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's our ratings. So thank you for listening. There's a bit of editing going on this episode. I don't know if you could tell, but internet crashed at a certain point. That was not good. So we had to finish this. We had to record it a second time. We almost had to record it in 2 parts, but the internet came to life again. So it's back. This episode is going up a day late. Sorry about that, but we had conflicts and everything. But we have it up, so don't worry about that. Make sure you check out Awesome Asylum. We'll be recording a new episode the day that this goes up, so Friday. And then there was a new episode of Steel City Boss this week, and there will be a new one next week on Monday night, maybe Tuesday morning as well. So make sure you check those out. And John, you're the main host of Awesome Asylum, so you'll be on the
Mhm.
next episode.
Yep.
You could follow them
I
on.
wasn't on the last one.
Yeah, sadly not, but you could follow
Yeah.
them at Awesome Asylum on Twitter. You can follow my show at Steel City Bots on Twitter. That's our main show, Transformers. You can follow me at Eric Crowbar on Twitter. You can follow Luke if you want, who isn't here, at DarthSand60_66. I think, I don't know. There's a link somewhere.
Yeah.
And John, what's your Twitter?
At Darth_Forge.
Cool. I'm trying to think of what. Oh, make sure you follow us. And sorry, just totally blank for a second. So I mentioned our other podcast. So make sure you subscribe to us at Nerdy Geek Talk. You can do it on Twitter too. That's a good place because we tweet all of our podcasts from there. But on YouTube, if you like YouTube to listen to there, we don't have video up there anymore. It's possible we may get into the format where we do video for everyone at a certain point with the episodes, but just for now, we are a podcast, so that's what we're focusing on is audio for the podcast. We will get to the point where we try video again for all the podcasts, but that's going to be complicated because it's going to be a lot more than it was before.
Yep.
But since we're also on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, all of that, make sure you go check those things out and subscribe to Nerdy Geek Talk there because we are up there. Our downloads are going up a lot higher than they were on YouTube and stuff. So thank you guys for subscribing. Keep doing that. And definitely share the shows with your friends. I think that's about it. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe only because their policy is changing, which hurts smaller channels. So hopefully we can get our channel bigger at a certain point. But I'm not too worried about that because I don't really care about money. That's not why I do this. So, yeah. That's about it. Thanks for listening. Bye.